That's okay. We'll take whatever level of awesomeness you can get. You just calling the show and talking to our two listeners, it's just pure awesome sauce all by itself.
It is. It is. And I realize that we have two and maybe three now because I did request that my wife, climb on and actually listen to it. But, I'm honestly shocked you didn't, go straight to the horse's mouth with bringing up offsides in our initial attempt at the first goal in the match against Thailand there with old Alex Morgan 6 minutes in. I thought you liked that.
That was on my list, but I thought I'd kind of warm up to that stuff because those are all stuff I don't understand. So here's what we'll do. We're going to just let you go through your notes of what you've got and what you wanted to talk about and educate us on that only the one way that Sean Horton can do and talk with us about the game against Thailand or Taiwan?
Thailand.
You have a second guess of myself now. Okay, Thailand.
Okay, brother, I'll give you a point.
I appreciate it, man. Talk with us a little bit about that game overall and what you saw and some of the things, quite frankly, that maybe have frustrated you as a fan and just made you scream and holler and say, hey, it's not right.
Well, offside is always going to be that one. This was definitely, Morgan was definitely offside, watching the replays and so forth. But it's always a slippery slope when watching back footage. And then, of course, just the overall understanding of offside itself. That frustrated me at times, but, I was pleasantly happy to 6 minutes later to then have our first real goal and then, of course, to come up with the end result. I mean, my mind was just absolutely blown with 4 goals in 6 minutes. I mean, I'm starting to think of, what other sport, or especially not soccer, that you'd have that kind of run in some way degree. I mean, we're talking about games where you might score 2 goals max in some instances, which I think is why most people dislike the sport itself. But, going back to the offside thing, I mean, I'd say it's really just the most frustrating part overall for me as far as the game is concerned. And then, of course, the PR that was provided to the team afterwards, which you alluded to at the beginning. People being frustrated about running the score and those that want to look to comment about understanding the overall situation fully before making those comments. But offside, Tom, you said you don't understand offsides?
Well, I understand offsides. In other sports, but not with the soccer. I'm still trying to learn I'm still trying to learn what the cards mean. You get a card. You get a card. No, give me that card back. You get a card. No, you get a card. I want a card.
So think of like a yellow card. Think of a yellow card is, your basic foul in basketball, and then a red card would be more along the lines of a technical card. Right? And, essentially what it comes down to is yellow card is a warning, right? Don't do it again, which, again, it could be for any number of things, whether it be a play that could be remotely dangerous, coming in cleats in or sliding in on a player where there could be, unintended injury taking place or just poor sportsmanship. I've watched and seen, unfortunately, like we do in many sports, egos and frustration flares up. You say things that you don't necessarily mean or regret later, but all of which can, again, warrant yourself getting a yellow card. A red card is a bit more serious, where there has to either be intent, i.e. I purposely was trying to break somebody's leg, or you managed to accumulate an additional yellow card, whereby you automatically receive a red card, meaning you didn't get your warning the first time and continue to execute or perform how you shouldn't be on the pitch. It's called a pitch, too. Did you know that, Tom?
Now, I did know that because actually I learned that from you a few years ago, that the field is called a pitch. So I did know that. So go ahead.
Anyway, I digress. My brain just shut off. Tom, where were we? Yeah.
We were talking about the cards. That's fine. No big deal. No big deal.
No, and that's what it breaks down to. It's really, again, the comparison to basketball, it's very, very simple. And then if we wanted to even roll it into offsides, right? If we wanted to compare it to basketball, let's just say, in order to make an alley-oop or make certain rebounds, right? The intended offensive player has to be directly under the basket, ready to receive the basket and get it in. In soccer, right, similar scenario. However, in an effort to ensure a degree of fairness and to not allow for cherry picking, right, all offensive players must be in front of a defender, meaning an offensive player that is going to receive a pass with the intention of scoring a goal cannot be between a defensive player and the goalkeeper themselves. There always has to be that room between the last defensive player and the goalkeeper if an offensive player is going to receive the ball for a goal. So you start looking at when you watch the teams line up for free kicks, right? Everybody lines up. There's one big line right across the entire field. That is to keep everybody on side. Once the ball has been kicked, it's fair game. The key is when that ball is released from the offensive player's foot in order to make that pass to the intended target. Does that make any sense?
No, absolutely. Talk to us a little bit about a match. Now, a match, the way I understand it, is kind of like we can equate it to first half and second half in football, American football, because isn't there two matches in a game? Am I correct on that?
Nope. The game itself is just a match. You have two 45-minute halves. Yep. And then we wait for stoppage time. So I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
No, and we equate for stoppage time, which stoppage time can be, again, any number of things. When your cards are handed out, a player is injured, what have you. But any instance where the full 90-minute terms have been stopped for any reason whatsoever. So that's where you start seeing, okay, rather than 90 minutes, you see 90 minutes and then you see stoppage time is the terminology used, and you'll see 90 plus 4 as well as displayed in this last match. As I think the final goal was scored in minute, I forget. But it was like minute 92 or 93, which technically is still fair play, so it's not as if, it's overtime or anything of that nature. It's just time that was taken from the players during the allotted team fight for that match.
Fun times. All right, let's talk about what's going on in the World Cup. Fun times. I'm just going to kind of go through these teams. Tell me what you know about them. You don't have to give me an overall breakdown, but this is just kind of where we're at as far as play so far with the Women's World Cup yesterday and today. So yesterday, China beat South Africa 1-0. China usually typically has a pretty good soccer team. I believe that I am correct on that.
No, you're right. China does tend to do pretty well for themselves. South Africa, can be somewhat reasonable depending. And, overall, I mean, it's looking at, two different things here is how financially stable is the country and then just the sheer volume of people. So you look like countries like China that have billions and billions of people. Well, by default or just economies of scale, you should be able to pull X amount of players and get them trained up in order to be, in a top competition. South Africa and a lot of the African countries and, the South American countries, they have soccer in their blood, for lack of better terms. So, you see these teams where they may have much smaller populations and may not have the resources that are, able to produce. Again, I see that as that was a pretty evenly matched game overall, or match, I should say. Excuse me, Tom, you're getting to me with, taking me in dangerous match on it.
I'm wearing off on you.
But, it's all good, man. I need it a little bit, and that's where why I miss you so much is I've gotten too soccer, and I need to kind of reverse course and be a little bit more aware of what's going on in the sporting world. Anyway, you're the man.
All right, so you had Japan and Scotland. Japan beat Scotland 2-1 yesterday. Also, Jamaica fell 5-0 to Italy. Italy got their first hat trick in history. I know what a hat trick is, I believe so, but go ahead and explain to us what a hat trick is. It's the same thing as it is in hockey, right?
You are so lucky, Tom, that a hat trick is a hat trick is a hat trick. Yes, you are correct.
Hey, man, you always got to love a good.
For the Italians.
Hey, man, I got nothing against the Italian. I go to Olive Garden all the time, bro.
No, not at all. I definitely was not alluding to that at all. But it's nice for the Italians, and why it's exciting even for the United States, for many of these other countries, because not to open up any kind of political conversation or anything else, but you look at women's sporting, in general, whether it's this country or across the world, they live in the shadows of their male counterparts, right? And, Italy, of course, has been a dominant force in men's soccer, since soccer started. You know what I mean? So, to watch and to see teams like the Italian women come up, get their first hat tricks, and be, commanding, strong presence on the pitch is huge.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. It's good for you. Yeah. England beats Argentina. Don't cry for me, Argentina, 1-0. Netherlands over Cameroon. It's like a nut or something.
Yep.
I've never even heard of that country. Cameroon?
Yes, sir.
So now we go back. Now we go back to Canada and New Zealand. A lot of people like Canada, and you know what? Going back, I'm just going to throw this little bone out there because the Canadians started this fight. So, hey, we're going to finish it. We're going to declare war on Canada. The Canadians said that the Americans celebrated way too much. They were out of hand with their celebration. Fast forward to the NBA Finals. Kevin Durant goes down with the Warriors, goes down and tears his Achilles heel in Toronto on their court. And every Canadian there is standing on their feet cheering because Kevin Durant just went down. I'm just saying. Not a political conversation here, but maybe President Trump needs to move the wall north. They can have the beer. Just let us keep Bryan Adams, damn it.
Right? But that's an exact example of, it's everybody wants to comment whether they, know the full story or if they even are practicing what they preach overall. I'd be lying to you if I wasn't one to get out there when I see folks, guys get hurt on the pitch and comments like shoot him like a horse and, drag him off and everything else comes up. But there's a far difference between, taunting, obviously, and then just sheer celebration of somebody's misfortune like that, and that to me, it was absolutely ridiculous. For us to be excited and celebrating over victory versus excitement and celebration over injury, let's be honest with ourselves here.
No, absolutely. I'm losing my voice, too. Sean, real quickly, I know you live here in the great city of Indianapolis with me. Well, you don't live with me, but we share the same city. So one of our good teams that has gained a lot of popularity in town, and that is the Indy 11. Talk with us about the Indy 11. They've got a big game coming up tonight, I believe. So talk with us about the Indy 11 and what their season looks like. And I know that you go to as many of those games as you can.
Absolutely. No, the Indy 11, just continues to, do their thing. It is so inspiring and amazing to have this team and then to watch them grow. We're moving from, Carroll Stadium there at IUPUI to now hosting in larger arenas and to now, potentially getting their own complex when the day is said and done. I apologize. I can't keep track of all the news as to whether it's happening, whether it's not. But, again, it's just an overall reflection of the momentum as to what the sport is shaping across the country. But here in good old Indiana, I remember when I first moved here about 20 years ago, my father told me that everybody had to have a basketball goal in their yard. That's the only way you could officially be a Hoosier or an Indianan. And honestly, when I first – and that was almost true. No, not everybody had a basketball goal, but basketball and football, your basic sports, were definitely on the brain. Can't forget racing in there. Fast forward to today, and now we're talking about soccer stadiums or multi-complexes for something like soccer when 20 years ago it was barely even mentioned or considered a sport.
And I also know that the city of Indianapolis was in the top considerations for a MLS expansion team. I think we got beat out by Nashville or Cincinnati, one of those teams. But certainly we were in the conversations here in Indianapolis of getting an MLS team. And I know that a lot of people thought that might hinder the Indy 11, which it very well might have. So the overall goal would have been, to have the MLS as I guess, but you're right, very much right. This Indiana, everybody knows, is a basketball state, a racing state, now a football state. But it is good to see the conversations with the Indy 11. And I've had an opportunity to go down there to a few games. It's just fun. A big fun atmosphere. I found it a little bit different. In my world, people wear jerseys. In your world, they wear scarves.